Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to GAIX Day Three, and it's been an amazing week so far. We've done 2 days, and we've delved into various industry. Delved into various industry, and we're still doing that today as day three. Day three, we are looking into XR, and yes. But a quick recap of what happened yesterday at the GAIX Day Two. We had three speakers on stage. The first speaker talked about the first speaker was enlightening us on the gaming industry, the approach in making good games. And yes, that was very insightful, and most of us took out some points in that from that. And yes, we had our second speaker who was a female. That was an amazing one. She delved into the digital fashion industry, giving us also full insight on what it takes to be a digital fashion creator and what the industry really entails all about. And yes, our third speaker was Chima, and he gave us insight on what it is to be a producer in the gaming industry at this age. And yes, I found that one very interesting because that's one role I'm really looking forward into. And before we get on with today we are delving into XR, and yes, we have a couple of speakers here already arranged. And I think I have here with me about one, two, three. I have like four. Oh, I have right about five speakers with me today. And yes, looks like it's going to be an amazing evening for every one of us. And I hope we can take something out today too, just like we did yesterday. Before I get started, I would like to introduce the first speaker, which is, sorry, hold on. Our first speaker for today is Mr. Abdulmaliq Jinad. He's a very extended reality developer with passion for blending cutting-edge technology and the world of immersive game and XR solution, specializing on the interaction of XR and movie arts culture industry, craft engaging immersive experience that pushes the boundary of creativity and innovation. Wow, that sounds like a lot. And I'm really looking forward to hear the insight is going to give us. And introducing now Mr. Abdul Malik. Welcome joining us this evening. Hello. Wow.
Hi, hi, good
Well done.
evening.
Good evening.
Is my audio clear? Can
Amazing
you
to
hear
have
me?
you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Nice to
loud and
be here.
clear.
Thank you very much.
Amazing to hear to see you this evening, and looking forward to what you are going to be really enlightening us this evening. Because me myself as a person, I'm quite very interested in extended reality, what it entails. I mean, the everyday use case and how to monetize it in some ways. And yeah, looking forward to what you are giving us. I think the stage is all yours now, Mr. Malik.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. We'll just talk a little bit about getting started in Excel space career-wise. So, at this point, you probably know about all it is regarding XR, the umbrella term, the AR, VR, and the likes. You understand those things. You've learned a couple of skills. You know how to use Unity. You know how to use Unreal, Blender, Maya. You can use Spark Studio. Well, I hope not Spark Studio because that's getting dumped in like a few days. But at least you know Lens Studio. You know all these tools, right? You are familiar with a couple of them if you want to. But like, how do you then get your foot into the industry? Like, how do you now, like, use the skills and monetize them? Like, what I just said. Um, Most people kind of just go for the, will I say, regular thing, which is okay, I learned how to use Unity to create a VR experience. I created one, two VR experience, put in my portfolio, and that's just it. But one thing I've noticed over the years is people kind of neglect the other aspects of Excel. There are other aspects regarding career in Excel. People are just going with the traditional, okay, I'm a VR developer, I'm a VR developer. So what can you do that makes you different, that makes you stand out from others? That's like what will easily get you into this space. So I remember some times ago, there was a colleague that posted that he needed someone to work on to like on his game as a shader programmer, and there are really few people that don't know they are into that in the industry. Well, let me just say in Africa now, and we could like pick people that could do these things, and these are the issues that we're currently facing. So people, a lot of VR developers, or not people specializing in the different aspect of XR in general. So people just like go to the traditional method, just learn VR, develop it, learn XR, learn this, learn that. Just doing the regular things, not actually specializing in one aspect, or just get to be known that, okay, let's say, for example, if someone mentions, okay, I need someone that's into sound designing in XR space, your name should pop up, like because there are few people in that space. So like spaces like that, you need to like explore those aspects. It's when you go to the traditional way of learning all these tools and just sticking to that without exploring other aspects, you become one out of many rather than being one out of few. Because then when you are looking for opportunities, there are a lot of people applying for the same job that have the same skills, nothing that makes you edge above other people. So these are the issues that we're currently facing, especially in the African ecosystem Excel space. So I believe what people should do is explore these aspects. So you don't want to just learn Unity, learn how to create experiences using this software. You want to learn the aspect that people are not exploring, or let me say in in the African continent, there are not a lot of people that explore in depth of it. So things like the shader programming part, few people are into that. If an opportunity comes up, how many people are going to be able to call you that, okay, let's say I need someone to do this for me. Your name should be able to pop up among these people. Like you should be easily, you should just get known, even if it's just among your friends, among the few people you know. Get known for one particular thing. It's okay to learn a lot of things and know how to do all, but try and pick a niche and and focus on that rather than just doing what everybody's doing. Because when you do what everybody's doing, you apply for the same job everybody are applying for, and you get screened the same way. Nothing make you distinct. You are just repeating and repeating the old thing everybody's doing. So for now, for example, now there are a lot of UI UX designers. I mean, like a whole lot. You personally know a lot of them. And then they are all learning the same thing. And there are a lot of people in that space. So when an opportunity comes up, a lot of people applying for the same job. Even right now, with the way XR is just growing, there's still a lot of people that are into these things. A lot, whether international opportunities or just local ones in your country or your continent, there are still a lot of people that do these things. So you need to find a niche and specialize in this aspect. So I'll name some of so a few that I know of. You can feel free to explore later on. So one aspect is multiplayer aspect. Yeah, people are good regarding multiplayer environment, or sorry, multiplayer experiences for games, traditional games, 2D, 3D. But what about for XR? Have you thought of trying to create your experience as a multiplayer one rather than just a regular single player one? Do you want to work on the server side multiplayer experience, or you want to work on the client side? So like even a multiplayer as you can focus on multiplayer, but like also some parts that you can still focus inside the multiplayer aspect. So like there are a lot of things you can explore. I'm just trying to let you know that you cannot don't just stick to the traditional method that everybody's doing, which is basic learning of 3D, basic learning of VR development, and you just stick to that. You don't improve, you don't specialize in one aspect. You can, like I mentioned, multiplayer is one you could look into. You could look into shader programming, which it's a little bit technical. It's different from the C-sharp code you write for VR experiences. It adds its own, language, HLSL. You need to learn that. Although if you have interest in it, you can explore it. I recently came across somebody on LinkedIn. I've forgotten his name, but I was really amazed at what he was doing. What was he doing? He's actually building his own game engine. This is someone in Nigeria specifically, I can't, unfortunately, I can't remember his name, but he's building his own game engine. Imagine someone building their own Unity or building their own Unreal. Of course, not as good as this software because these are way, they've been in the industry way like years, but he's just starting building his own engine. And if you are to mention people that can do that in the continent, I'm sure just like one, two, three, four, like no, just few people. It's something you will not, you cannot say, oh, a lot. There are not a lot. So if opportunity like that comes up, there are people you can that point to that. Okay, yeah, this person is the right person for this job because I mean, how many people does that on continents? So these are things you need to like look into. So that's and even the whole building your own game engine is that falls under shader programming, falls under technical artists. You know, there are a lot of things that it requires there is a lot of skills you need to learn to get to that stage. It's a lot. It's not easy, of course, but you know, try and find a niche in the industry. So I spoke about multiplayer. Spoke about shader programming. Also, you want to look into let's say sound design, which is very very important. This is important not just to XR alone, but also to games, to animations, to anyone. Like it's very very important. You see opportunities regarding sound design that goes as high as 200K per year in 200K USD per year, and you are like, it's not just sound. It's not just sound. Like I mean, they hardly write a lot of programs that much, but it's not just sound. Sound is very key to everything we do in the XR space. You know, there you can't. We don't have gloves like that are easily like haptic gloves or suits that are easily that are affordable for people to like just get. But with sound, these are ways to give feedback during in an experience. Whether it is games, whether it's 3D games or XR games, sounds help make your experience much more immersive, much more realistic, and much more interesting. Because when you kick a ball physically in the real world, you definitely hear a sound. Why am I not hearing a sound in my VR experience or in my 3D game or whatever? And as little as this thing, they might seem little, they are not little at all because the more realistic sounds you have, the more realistic your game is, and it makes your game become much more enhanced compared to just any experience that do not have proper sounds in them. So sound design is very key in the games, movies, XR industry, and that's one space you can also specialize into. These A lot of people are out there doing crazy things regarding sounds. But if you have interest in sound generally, not programming or VR development, this is something you could look into try and pivot your skills, from whatever it is you are doing, and since you are interested in the Excel space, plan for ways to get into that space using your current skills, and how to enhance what you currently know to get better. So yeah, that's sound design. You can look into another place to specialize is WebXR. So you have VR, understand VR, you understand AR, you understand mixed reality. What about WebXR? And one thing about WebXR is that it is it's more like like say, it's actually the easiest way to to tell people about the XR, about XR, because you do not need any gadgets. Well, you do need a gadget, you need a mobile phone or a PC, but 10 out of 10 people will have one of these two. They would have a mobile phone or a PC. So it's easier to port your experiences to this to sorry, it's easier to reach a larger audience using this space. So if you are into WebXR and you are creating experiences strictly for WebXR, that doesn't mean you shouldn't learn other things. You shouldn't explore the VR space, like creating actual VR experience for the VR headset that we have. But if you are specializing in that aspect, when opportunities come, it's easier for you to get those opportunities than you just learning. I'm an XR developer. Okay, I'm an XR developer. I know mixed reality. I know VR. I know XR. I know AR. Can you create for web? Then that becomes an issue. And if you do, even if the job role is saying VR experience, or they need a VR developer or an AR developer, if you have this among your skill sets, it's something you never can tell if the company is actually looking to explore that angle later on, and they're like, okay, this guy has this as a bonus. You see some jobs they'll write the key quality they're looking for and they'll write bonus. Bonus, this might be among the bonus. Bonus doesn't mean that okay, you have it, you don't. Bonus means you have it, you don't have it, you still be employed. But if you have this, it gives you an edge over others. So like these are what I'm talking about. So when you have these skills, it gives you an added advantage compared to other people that are applying for the jobs, other candidates. So WebEx is one aspect you can look into. We also want to talk about blockchain, an intersection with it with the XR space. People have been exploring this aspect. I mean, companies have been exploring this aspect for quite a while now. For back as 2020, I think, when when XR exploded. But not a lot of people are into this. Reason being, people are restricting themselves to blockchain for 3D games. How about the Web XR part, or let's say the XR part? Why I'm saying you can look into this aspect is because most WebXR experiences, they try to incorporate blockchain into their experience on the web because it allows them to, aside the regular XR activities you can do on the web, there are also ways for you to like buy and sell stuffs. I personally, I don't know much about blockchain. I'm not really a fan of it, but it's also an interesting space that companies have been exploring recently. And I see a lot of jobs actually when I myself when try applying for jobs. I see, okay, do you have interest? Most people don't know a lot about it, but they'll ask, do you have interest in blockchain, or do you have the skills? So if you do, that's another advantage. So it's not just the regular stuff you'll be learning, it's different. So try and be open to exploring new opportunities, to exploring new fields, to exploring new what do you call it? New skills that are out there that are not, that are like, people are not really looking to it, like the underexplored careers in the Excel space. Try and be open to learning these things. If you do have interest in them, just read more about it. There's also what's the name? I think GPU programming. Yeah. This has to do with the whole aspect of creating your own game engine, which is a lot. I mean, for a beginner, you probably don't want to go into that. But I'm just saying these are skills that people are looking forward to. They're looking for people that are into these things, and the fact that you are in Africa or wherever you are coming from, regarding Nigeria, wherever, there are not other people that are into these things, this at least that I know of, than into this, into these aspects in the Excel space. So when you do, you become the one out of the few people that are into it. So when opportunities come up, you'll be the one to be called. And there are some careers that if you mention, I can think that okay, who is the best person for this job that I know of? Because if you say you're looking for a VR developer, I know a lot of VR developers. But when you specifically name a particular aspect of Excel that you're looking for, there are some people that are actually very, very good in it, and that's what they specialize in. Now, when you specialize, it's like, first of all, being Africa, you have a disadvantage of where you see jobs, they want you to know all. Most companies don't specialize, they don't look for people that specialize in just, let's say, um, programming. You don't know the art side of Excel development. So yeah, you need to know the art side, you need to know the programming side. So that I know happens, but in top companies, they're like, it's different. There's the programmer. You see roles like gameplay programmer, see roles like front end programming. I mean, not front end as in web, but like for Excel, for games. So these are all programming, right? But you can specialize in those aspects. So there are companies I know you need to learn all. So when you specialize, try and still also learn all these things. Like know the general parts, know how to do this, know how to do that. But when people are looking for a particular skill, even if among your friends, they can point to you that okay, yeah, this is the person that can do this because he knows more about this than other aspects. So compared to other people in the space. One other one you can look into is yeah, I think most people already know this. That's game art, or yeah, that's the regular Blender, Maya, Houdini, and the likes. So it's an aspect you can specialize in, right? Most people know about this, so it's not new to anybody, I believe. So that's like the art aspect of XR in general. So you can specialize in that aspect. You can also look into yeah. There's one aspect in Unity that I do not know a lot of people that know this. People just kind of okay, I need to do this, just look for a tutorial of it and do it. But I've seen people that actually special not well, I've not seen anybody in the country. Well, I know I've seen people outside that specialize in the aspect of particle system and what's the name of how does you need to call it? I can't remember. But that's spread in that aspect. Like there are some courses out there that you take and you can use like 3, 4 months just learning about the Unity engine particle system. Now, this does not really relate to XR in general, but when you apply for jobs, especially for jobs that relate to Unity, and you can do the regular stuffs, but can't do this. I now I added particle system because I actually had personal experience with this. So there was a job, XR actually. I can do the you can do the other basic stuff. Let's also say you are good at other things, but they were looking for someone that has knowledge about little. Let's just say like little knowledge about other stuffs that does not include basic programming or not even basic, even complex programming, no, like creating experiences in general. But you have knowledge about how to do shader programming, how to create particle systems. Like I tell you, okay, I need to create a particular part of a particle system. It's not you're not just going online to search for the basic things like how to create a fire in Unity all this and like this is off air. Like you can do it without any external resources. Like a lot of people I know do not know these things because you can easily find it online when you need it, right? But when you people that are doing these tutorials, they are obviously not checking the tutorial to teach you, right? So like these are skills inside the Unity engine itself that you can also learn to have that edge above other candidates when you apply for jobs. So XR is really, really broad. Um, there you've probably attended sessions where you talk about Excel, getting started in Excel. This is more about the other, explored careers in Excel, the specializing in Excel, part of Excel, not just learning Excel, creating experiences, but picking a particular niche while you are learning and focusing on that aspect. It could even be the movies industry. Like that's actually Excel is currently trending in movies industry where like most people are trying to ditch the old green screening and are trying to use Excel. If you remember this movie came out, Lion King, the remake of Lion King, like it was it 2019 or so. The movie was entirely directed and filmed in VR using Unity game engine. They were using VR to capture those scene shots inside the engine. So, and most companies now are trying ditching green screening and using LED volume, XR technology to create their movies. People, it's more efficient because while you're on stage using green screen, you have to like use just try to mimic the lighting from the view of what you can see on your screen. But with LED volume and XR technology, the user is covered entirely in the virtual environment. So all the lighting effects are already reflecting on the user's face. So they don't have to start using fake light to just like make the lighting effects coming from the background look much better on the user or on the actor. So like, and it even also gives the actors, great sense of let's say presence when they're acting. They don't have to start assuming that there is a fly there and I have to look up, so there is this and I have to like look down, something like that. Like they are in the virtual space, so like they understand what they know where to look at, they understand all these things. So like I said, it's a broad Excel is very broad. A lot of industries are incorporating the technology into their um, production pipeline. So movies industry one, which actually just started growing. People movies like Mandalorian was created in VR. I think it was Oil Engine. Movies like I said, Lion King was created in Unity. I know John has worked on a lot of movies. That's the only two I know he worked majorly for using Excel technology. But yeah, these are pathways you could look into. These are careers that they're not so much of a career, but let's say skills that gives you added advantage when you apply for jobs. So don't just limit yourself to the traditional way that everybody's doing, learning these engines, learning these softwares, and just relaxing like, okay, yeah, I know how to do this. But in those softwares, in those tools, in those engines, try and specialize in some aspect. Learn a bit of everything, but know more about one thing in particular. There's this saying that goes by saying, "Jack of all trade," or I can't remember exactly how it goes, but don't don't. I'm not saying you should be jack of all trade. Know a little of everything, or know more of one in particular. Let people know you for one thing in particular. Do not just they ask you what are you into. I'm into VR, I'm into AR, I'm into XR in general. Okay, like when specific opportunities comes out, even your friend should be able to tell that, oh, if you're looking for anything that's to do with web XR, this is the guy you need to talk to. Yeah, I know a little bit of it, but this is where he specializes. This is what he does. This is what he knows best. I'm looking for someone that is in multiplayer experience, whether it is client side, whether it's server side. Oh, this guy you want to meet, this guy you want to talk to. Yeah, I can do it too, but that's a specialized. No, that's where he specializes in. So he knows a lot about it. So he's probably the best guy for the job. So like, try and be that guy. Try and stand out basically among your colleagues. Try and stand out among your friends. Learn and don't just stand out, learning just everything, but stand out by specializing in one aspect and letting everybody know that you do these things. Don't just sit back and okay, I've learned it, okay, and that's just it. You don't hide yourself from the world. So put yourself out there, post that you're doing things like this, and let people know you for one thing in particular. Um, Getting into the space is actually not quite easy. You can learn these tools and be out there searching for jobs, and you don't get that footing. The footing is basically getting to that interview process, because it's at the interview process you can now like sell yourself and let people know what exactly you're capable of. The whole CV and likes, you need to tailor that. That's that's a lot of work also too. But one thing I've learned in my experience that I personally I've worked 3 full-time jobs since I started, and I never applied for this job. I did not apply. I did not see the post somewhere, and I apply and got the job. Got for interview, did the interview, got the job. Never. In my experience, I've worked at various companies. I've only been called for a job. Like got a job for one that I actually applied for, which was a part-time job. That was the only job I know I've ever, I've ever applied for and I was called for. So it's not like I don't meet the requirements or I'm not good enough for something. But try to know that most jobs out there are gotten through connections. So like build your connections to be very, very strong. Don't just have people out there that that you're not reaching out to. You're just seeing them on LinkedIn, seeing them on wherever, Twitter and likes. But reach out to people, let them know you're doing these things, build good connections with them, not just the cold one where you just, I know this guy is in my connection on LinkedIn. Do you really talk? Do you really know what you're into? Like, let people know what you're into. Let people put yourself out there basically. So most jobs, to be honest, will be gotten to connections. Before a company put out a job post, they will most likely reach out to their employees and ask them, what do you know someone that can do this? Like, it's faster for them. Imagine I, as an HR, trying to go through 100 applications when I can just call somebody that I know is into this and just tell them to come in and just talk, interview him, and that's the end. So, like, getting into space is hard, but it's easier when you have a good connection, when you are with other people in the space, and you learn more about all this, the opportunities available for you. So yeah, I think that rounds up my little thing I have to say. I hope you'll be able to learn one or two things, and feel free to ask any questions. So over to you, Mubanaji.
Oh wow! Thank you very much, Mr. Abdulmalik. That was very insightful. That was quite a handful for us to catch up on. And yeah, that really showed me a lot of things in the industry that I never knew, like the multiplayer experience. I never knew XR could create that. Uh, I never really knew the importance of sound design in XR. That sounds very interesting. And the blockchain web XR. I think I have a few questions about that, but you said you don't really know much about that.
Yeah, so the thing with blockchain is, I don't know more because I'm not a fan of it. Now, like
Okay,
I
okay.
said, people should, it's all about your interest. I know a lot of people
Yes.
that are actually into blockchain, you know, but I do have interest in it. So I'm not exploring that field because I'm not a fan of it. So, but I've seen a lot of companies that are actually into this, and I know colleagues that have worked in these companies that are into,
Yes.
know, connecting your your blockchain wallet to your
Yeah,
XR
XR.
account or whatever. Like so, there are a lot of website, there are a lot of XR web XR experiences that are actually using this currently, and it's one way you can also explore and try and specialize in the industry. So yeah, like I said, but you could ask a question. Maybe I know one or two things about it.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I just wanted to know. First question on that one for the blockchain part. Does it like maybe run on a particular network, and like you said, and like when you create a particular art on the XR, like maybe it's going to run on maybe Ethereum. Is that kind of thing that the blockchain does? Is
Yeah,
it is that what it entails?
yeah. So basically, what I know of that they use the blockchain for in Excel spaces to
Yes.
monetize your assets. So I
Okay.
remember when the whole NFT was pumping. I know everyone was into NFT and likes. So like
Yes.
that that was one way people were trying to sell the XR space with blockchain, which is
Oh.
come into a virtual space, come to a virtual land. There were actually lands that were selling for crazy amounts in VR. Like you have a VR land, a virtual land, and you buy that space, and people come into your space, probably to rent it out for an occasion, for events or whatever, and they pay you to blockchain, or whether you are selling your artwork or whatever, and they will get
Okay.
paid to blockchain. So like that's the intersection between blockchain and WebXR.
Yes, okay. That's very clear now. That's very clear. So that I won't waste much of your time, I think I should take the few questions that we already have in our comments. So I'll take the first one right now. The first one from Priyanshi. She said, "Please tell us about the project you have worked on in the industry." I think we could just give that quickly.
Okay. I've worked in various industries actually, but
Okay.
majorly in the simulation space. And most of my work basically are company based, but it's more about I've worked majorly on simulation, creating simulations for various workforce, whether it's construction industry, whether it is education, creating simulations that help people learn their tools better. For people in the construction industry, how to use a tractor, how to use a wheel loader, how to use this. You can work, you can use this VR experience to practice this how to use these tools or these machines before you get on site. If you
Okay.
work component in the education space where you could create a simulation for STEM subjects like chemistry, physics, and biology. So all the experiments you do in the lab, all the simulations you do in the lab, all the mixing of chemicals and likes, you can do this in Excel without actually going to a physical lab. So this was one of the projects I've worked on. I've worked on multiplayer experiences like I don't know if anybody know Gorilla Tag. So there was a similar project to that, like it's called Alien Tag. So that one where it's more like a game. It's a game actually. It's a game that I worked on, coupled with other developers to just currently on the Quest Store, Alien Tag. So it's just a game where you like play tag with other aliens, dress up in an alien world. So that's one. Other personal projects will include a custom prototyping tool like Gravity Sketch, something similar to that. Um, yeah, so like I said, different. I've worked in different university.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So I'll ask one more question. Said XR is often associated with gaming, but what are some other sectors that XR is making big impacts? This is a question from Roshima.
Um, I would say, yeah, like you mentioned, like you said, it's mostly associated with gaming. But
Yes.
the other aspect that give it big impact right now, what I see that is currently trending is the fitness with Excel, creating like where you can like exercise, play
Yeah.
games that actually make you exercise and get fit. So that's one aspect I know I've been that it's currently making gains. Also in the medical industry, it's majorly I think that's like the biggest next because for people that I've spoken to recently, they are doing more of experiences in the medical line, because
Okay.
it's easy. And part of it is also the fitness, medical and fitness kind of correlate. Also, it's also the simulation industry helping to onboard your new what's the employee, to teach them about the tools that you use, like the one I mentioned, creating simulations for people that work on construction site or education industry, or even Amazon sometimes uses the Excel tools to for remote assist, and teaching their new employees how to use basic tools in their setup. So yeah, one three aspect I know of that are currently gaining grounds: fitness and medical, simulation, and like I said, the gaming.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. I would have loved to take more questions, but just so that we can stay on time and not really lag behind because we still have other speakers to join us. Mr. Abdulmaliq, thank you very much for your time and the insights you've shown us so far in getting into the industry. That's very insightful. And yes, thank you for your time. Hope we do this some other time.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so next we have two speakers that are bringing up next. Uh, they are going to be giving us insight on the industry, the part that has to do with understanding XR production. And we have two speakers. We have Ahmed Arowosegbe and Oluwatosin Ogunyebi. Yes, for Mr. Ahmed Arowosegbe, Mr. Ahmed Arowosegbe has 6 years experience in the 3D industry, boasting a remarkable track record of achievement and contributions to the immersive technology. He has worked on the global project with esteemed brands such as Marriott, Mastercard, Lloyd's. Wow, this is a whole big CV. L'Oreal's and XPWC. In addition to his professional achievements, Ahmed is deeply involved in driving an adoption of virtual augmented reality solutions across Africa. Wow, that's amazing. And our second speaker is Oluwatosin Ogunyebi. Oluwatosin Ogunyebi has 5 years experience in the massive media industry, specializing in games, augmented reality, that's AR, VR, virtual reality, VR, and mixed reality, MR. Oluwatosin currently works as VR developer at the Imperial College London, a top 5 global ranked university. Is part of a team building virtual reality student experience platform designed to enhance the learning and complex topics by providing immersive 3D environment that allows students to visualize and interact with concepts in many traditional ways and methods traditional methods cannot achieve. Wow, that's amazing. Welcome our two speakers on board now. Welcome Oluwatosin and Ahmed. Nice to have you here this evening. Hello.
Hey, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay,
Welcome.
just a moment.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Awesome.
Oh,
Hey.
big man. ah, Really nice to have you guys with us this evening. And yes, that's some impressive CVs there. We are ready to delve into your insight on understanding XR production. And yes, we're ready for you guys to eat us with the knowledge on this. Yeah, you have the floor now.
All right, then, cool. I'll let you want to go first.
I think Mr. Oluwatos, you can go first.
All right, then, cool. Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to this session. My name is Oluwatosin Ogunyebi. I'm happy to be here once again.
Happy to
And
have you.
yeah, so Bolaji, it's good to see you as well once again. And yeah, just like you said, I actually work in the XR industry as well. Same with Amit. And today is just focused on sharing what we've been able to, do as well over the past few years. And I mean, our friends, and we go really, really like way back since our university days. And we've been doing XR since then as well. So what we're just focused on today is sharing what we've done to help us get to where we are at the moment and some of the things we do as well, and some of the things you can do as well to get you going within the XR space, because there's quite a lot. And kudos to Abdul Malik that spoke earlier on. He's a good friend as well, and he's touched on quite a few important details as well. So that makes it much more interesting for us here too. So before I just get into the thick of things, Ahmed, do you want to just do quick introductions and then we can just kick off the chat from there?
Yeah, sure, awesome. Again, thanks so much, Tosin. Nice to see you again. So again, super excited to be here. My name is Ahmed. Been in this space for like 5 6 years. Had opportunity to to work like various projects. From like prototyping to like live product to like actual like even like live production projects. And yeah, just a bit about me. I think also like I'm also the founder of Swift Excel, which is more like a no code platform that anyone can use to create 3D AR and VR experiences on demand, more like the Canva for 3D AR VR. And yeah,
Okay, cool. So sweet stuff. So to get started, I think it would be nice and ideal to just talk about what is actually involved in XR production. And I know that sounds fancy to be fair, but it's really just what really happens to from the start of an idea to actually executing it and getting it out there to people to actually test out. And I think generally it follows the same approach as the game development industry. There are just three major stages to production within games and film as well. It's what happens pre-production, during production, and post-production. And under those three categories, you can start breaking things down. You have brainstorming, planning that happens even before you start doing anything at all. So you do prototyping. For example, there's something interesting you do, especially when you're designing XR applications. When you brainstorming, aside from brainstorming, you also do something called body storming, which is a fairly new concept, but it's basically acting out how users experience your be it AR or VR experience, if you want to call it that, where say for example, a user picks up a VR headset and they put it on. How exactly do they move their hands? Where do they position their hands? Um, for how long do they position their hands there? So things like this are thought about in like the design stage, even before you look at creating your before you look at writing the code to actually create your interactions and logic. So there's a lot of design that goes into XRs compared to traditional 3D games or 2D games, just because of that extra dimension where users get to experience 6 degrees of freedom. Right. So before we go into all the technical stuff, I think it would be nice, especially for those of us that are relatively new to AR, VR, and MR, to talk about what exactly that is, and then we can continue on that part to touching on the things you do before production, during production, and post production as well. Ahmed, do you want to just give us a bit of that?
yeah, sure. Again, I think the most important thing is we do say XR, right? And
Yeah,
yeah, and sometimes what I really find funny is like we get to hear about like extended reality, we get to hear about XR, we get to hear about metaverse, we get to get
spatial
about
computing.
and and what I just like like come to terms with is like, okay, XR is extended. I mean, XR is a short form for extended reality, which is what I call a more technical term. And then we have spatial computing, which is more
Fancy.
generally, generally acceptable and maybe like more fancy, right? And that kind of like, but at the end of the day, it's like both XR and spatial computing, you know, they are more like a family name that groups, stuff like virtual reality, augmented reality, and also like mixed reality, and also like probably anything that is probably going to exist in the future that's more like reality is so XR short form for extended reality or spatial computing is more like a family name that encompasses that. And then we have VR, and the whole idea about VR is how do we transport you from the point you are at to like another point. So it's like how do I, like, for example, take Tosin from where he is today and just like drop him in Paris, right, and just immerse him in that kind of environment. That's the idea of VR. For AR, it's kind of like the opposite of VR, which is like as compared to taking Tosin into like a virtual environment that exists physically, like exists like digitally in our computer screen. How do I bring something that actually exists digitally on the computer screen and bring it into like Tosin's physical presence, right? And this could be like, say for example, you design like a virtual avatar or like let's say a 3D character in Maya, in Blender, or like in any of these 3D software that you use. How can you bring such imaginary character into your physical space and say it obviously via like a device? And when it comes to like mixed reality, is more of like more like kind of like a fusion between both of them. And your idea about it is you can see mixed reality more like an advanced form of AR, which is the short form for augmented reality, and it's all around like how do you interact with stuff that you have in AR. So, say for example, I bring like a digital like Spider-Man into my space. Can I actually shake that? Like can I sing, dance, shake that digital Spider-Man? And can that Spider-Man sort of like interact with me? And that's the whole idea of like mixed reality. Like how do we blend all these objects more, instinctually and more intuitive, like into our space? Tosin, back to you.
Okay, cool. Sweet. So yeah, now that we've talked about AR, VR, MR a bit, it would be nice to actually know if people in the comments will can just let us know if you've seen the movie Ready Player One. I think that's one of the movies that really got me into virtual reality, and ever since then it's just been from one interesting thing to another. Please let us know in the chat if you've seen that movie, because I always reference that movie a lot because it shows us what's possible within the AR VR space. Right, so back to production itself and what it actually takes to build something from ground up and actually get it to the users. The very first question is the scope of what you're working on. And I think it's very important to ensure that if you're creating VR or AR experiences, you're actually creating it because VR or AR would actually improve the product you're trying to create. All right, so say for example, you want to learn about the solar system. There's a bit of feedback on my end. I don't know where that's coming from, but okay, cool. So, say you want to create a learning experience for the solar system, for example. Ideally, when I grew up, when I went to secondary school, when we learned about these things, it was mostly on our textbooks, and the best you'd get was a video on YouTube. But these days, people actually engage with these solar systems where they're able to grab it, pinch it, zoom in, and zoom out with their hands and view these things in a much more realistic manner. And that particular case there, that particular case there shows how VR or even AR in some cases, or even mixed reality, can be very useful in transforming that learning experience from that traditional 2D format to a much more interesting and immersive format for people to learn, and it actually sticks with us more. Right. So you have to ask the right questions. If this thing I'm building, if I don't use VR, would it still pass the message across the way it's meant to? If it does, then there's no point of using VR. Cool, VR or AR or MR is a really, really good technology, but that doesn't mean it has to be used for everything. There's been really, really interesting cases in the past where companies reach out to, but I myself and Ahmed as well, we've had these issues in the past where companies reach out and they want to create an experience in VR, even though we know that VR is not the best medium suited for that particular project. So it's a question of, will VR improve this particular experience or this particular application or product I want to work on? If it doesn't, then you don't necessarily have to do it. So there are a couple of things you have to look out for, especially when you want to work on projects like that. And the first thing to check is there any nature of immersion within the project itself? Is there any point in time we would need to immerse the user in a virtual experience for us to actually pass the message across? Right. So say you want to do a bank transfer, for example, right? Um, it would be easier if you had your mobile phone and you can just type things in and you can send your money rather than going into a virtual environment to go and meet, say, an assisted agent maybe a 3D character and say and start doing the same thing repeatedly. Because a VR experience, for example, wouldn't be something you would use every time, every day. It would be something you use for a short period of time, and go back to it from time to time, as compared to, say, augmented reality in some cases where you have AR glasses, for example, where you can have that on without too much fuss compared to VR, right? So you have to just look at whether does this thing I'm doing, is this thing I'm doing, is it needed? Does it need VR or does it need AR? Then when you can answer that question, then you can move on to creating, some form of design, just acting it out and seeing what exactly you want to do before you then start saying, oh, let's start coding. Because a lot of people just rush into start developing something without actually thinking about how they want to do it, which can be very, very misleading at times. Because if you don't think about designing some things, you will just do things that people don't want to use, which is the case in the past. Even I felt victim of this, where we want to create an application and we just go into Unity and start building, and at the end of the day, we realize that's not what people really want. So you have to look at understanding who you're creating something for as well, which is very, very important. Amid, what do you think about just understanding the audience? Because I remember when we started with SwiftXR, there were a lot of things you were doing from like an engineering point of view, but by the time people start using, you were like, uh, "This is how you're meant to do it." But I remember that time when we were testing, I was like, "This doesn't make so much sense," and taking that feedback, and that has gotten us where we are right now. So if you wanted to share with us what that has felt like building SwiftXR.
Yeah, sure. Again, awesome. Thank you, Tosin. I think before I even like get into that, I think I super like like love what you said, which is actually around like what you want to use Excel to do, like what is the impact of it. And for example, like there's this study that says, okay, 71% of shoppers would likely like use augmented reality. Most likely like they will shop better if they had like AR, which is like augmented reality, right? And in that case, for example, you could say that is more like a clear value prop for saying, okay, let we can use AR in shopping, right? Or like for example, where someone is saying, okay, I want to use VR or AR for something, or maybe for example, it's like saying, okay, I want to go to a village and I want to do VR there, and the people in the village, for example, they're gonna get VR sets, right? And then you just want to understand like more of like the scope and the environment. Like, okay, how do I get VR set to these people? For example, do they even have access to VR sets? Are they learning enough to even say they want to operate the VR sets? And I think it starts with like understand like who are the target markets you want to look at, and also like more around like and also like more around what I'm trying to build does actually make sense, and is VR AR actually the appropriate solution for it. And to even like dive more like into like what we've done, for example, like at Sutexa, for example, I remember like then we started, right? And we're trying to build a tool more for like developers, right? And that was the goal, was like, okay, this is meant to be like a Unity clone. For Unity, for example, I want to do AR Unity, just come right to like into like SwiftXR, right? And you can do what you could do Unity, right? And for AR in this context, right? Or for XR in that code. And like what we later like learned along the line was developers want certain aspect of control of their app. They want like finite grain control. They want to be able to make things super interactive, make things really, really nice. And all, and because we were being like a no-code platform and we're trying to make it super, super easy, we've sort of like limited the ability of what they can do. And and that was like a major concern for for like most devs in that regard. And but we saw that for a non-technical person, it was a game changer for them. A non-technical person, for example, could just say, okay, what, instead of me having to go and hire like a Unity dev or a WebXL dev to to do this stuff, I just come to like our platform, right? Which is in this case is WebXL, just operate their model and boom, yeah, they have the link. And once we saw that, okay, our target market actually is not devs, because dev wants certain amount of code. Although there's some dev that actually use us for example, maybe for like prototyping or maybe like on the API level, right? But our core devs are more like business owners that just want to get 3D models straight into AR as quickly as possible and as fast as possible. And once we knew like these are our customers, we decided to tailor our platform. Like how do we even make it super easier and more straight for them? And again, it goes back to the to what Tosin said earlier is like the most important step in XR production before you like want to create like any XR app and drop that app into its like some certain like use case and all. You need to first start and understand like who are my target market or like the users, for example, and what I'm trying to build for them, is it even useful for them?
Mhm. Exactly. I think that's very, very important. So you don't just create something and no one gets to use it. Right. So moving on from this, when you have a clear understanding of the people you want to create for, I think then selecting the tool or how you want to approach it is the next question, right? Before you even get into production at all. Right. So depending on your skill level. I think there are quite a lot of things that go into this. Your skill level, the people you're working with, that's your team as well. Or for example, if you're working in a big company, you have access to all the resources you need, right? If you're working in a big company, you have access to all the resources you need, mostly in terms of talent, in terms of assets and things like that. But say you're an indie person, right? You would have to consider some of these things as well. Do I have the skills to create everything I might be needing within this project? If not, would I be outsourcing some things, or would I be getting someone on the project with me? Those are some of the things you have to kind of think about before you get into doing any project. And even if it's a personal project as well, I think you have to define what you want to do within that project. So you don't just run into scope creep where you're trying to do so much and you don't end up doing anything. Right. So once you are able to identify what exactly you need, then within the same umbrella, you're looking at the tools. So in terms of tools, I think there's quite a lot of tools to create XR experiences these days. There's quite a lot of them. Earlier today, I was at the AR Day event here in London, where we had keynote sessions and talks from the guys at Snapchat. Snapchat as well now have, or Snap in this case, now have their own AR glasses called Spectacles, which allows you to create AR experiences. And you can interact with them as well. So you can classify that as mixed reality, to be fair. So there is that, but the developer community is pretty small at the moment, and you have limited access to things you can do with that or how you can actually deploy it. So you're thinking of other platforms like Unity or Unreal. So it's a question of um, what tool do I use? Or and in answering that question as well, you have to look at the platform you're targeting, right? So say for example, all you just want to do is get um, the anatomy of a skeleton online, and you want people to say the anatomy of a skeleton, a skeletal structure, yeah, online, and you just want people to learn about different parts of it. Something that simple. You could just go over to SwiftXR and upload a 3D model, add hotspots to label different parts of it, publish it on the web, and everyone has access to it. It's that simple. But say you want a much more complex experience where people can piece these things apart. People can carry out maybe surgical procedures on different parts of the system or things like that. Then you need a much more complex tool which you need more technical skills for. So you say you use a tool like Unity or use a tool like Unreal Engine. So the complexity of the project as well would define what type of tool you use. So for example, Unity uses the C# programming language for logic and scripting, while Unreal uses Blueprints and C++, right? So the type of skills you have as well will determine what type of tool you use, right? And when you're developing for VR, then comes a question of what headset do you want to use as well? And I think that's a major one. So say for example, Snap has the spectacles, Meta has the Meta Quest series, HTC has the Vive, um, there's so many companies. There's Steam has the Valve Index. There's so many of them as well, like that. Pico as well is there, and it's not a question of where exactly do I want to put my application, or if it's a client project you're working on as well. where exactly does my client want to put this project on? So that's where you start looking at, oh, what platforms are being used within that industry, what platforms are being used within this particular sector. For example, in the UK here, the um, education sector uses a lot of PC tethered VR as compared to standalone VR, because there are a lot of labs across multiple universities that I've been to. A lot of them use PC VR, although they do experiment with standalone, but they use PC VR more because they require access to more storage and processing for whatever they're doing for their learning experiences. But there are some places where they might just need standalone VR to run most of the things they need, right? So questions like that you need to answer as well. Um, you need to look at the SDKs that you would be using for development within whichever platform you're using. For example, say you're working for a client and the client wants their project on, say, the Pico headset and the MetaQuest headset, for example. Then you know that you cannot use um, the Oculus SDK, the Meta All-in-One SDK, because that would only work to be deployed on the MetaQuest series. So that means you need a tool like OpenXR to use for your project. So it supports both the Pico headset and the MetaQuest headset. So things like that. So say, for example, you want to develop your mixed reality application for the spectacles, right? If you're going to do that, you will need Lens Studio by Snap. So all these things, you have to just put them into consideration when you're starting out before you get into doing anything at all. And yeah, once you get all that answered, I think it kind of puts things in a clear path for you to follow. And once you have that settled, you can then now start looking at um, designing what your project is going to look like, which is very, very important. So storyboarding is very, very important, especially when you're creating VR and AR experiences, just because it's very difficult to just use flow diagrams to explain how VR or AR experiences work. In If it's like a normal regular application, right? It's easy to just say, oh, when you press this, this happens. When you press this, this happens. You see on the 2D screen. But when it comes to AR or VR, it's a bit challenging to visualize on a flat surface. So it's always nice to have a storyboard that kind of like gives a narrative to what happens at each part. And then people can act these parts out, which makes it easier for people to understand as well. Because if you understand, if everyone is on the same page, when you're about to create a VR experience, especially when you're working in teams, it makes it easier for everyone to get work done, right? So nobody does something that everyone now comes back and it's like, oh, this isn't what we're expecting. So it's always very, very good to storyboard your project. Just give a narrative to the different steps that you would take within your project itself. And then you can start prototyping. Ahmed, can you just share with us how you go about like prototyping VR experiences before you create like the main thing itself?
Yeah, so awesome. Thank you, Tosin. I think I think even beyond like before like even going to like prototyping, right? I think like you dived a lot like like into like what happened, we talked about pre-production, what actually happened, like like doing production, right? And now if you're talking about like what happened when you go post-production, right? Is like, and Tosin said, for example, the most important thing going post-production is how do you prototype, right? And how do you make like quick tests, quick changes, see what you're doing, right, and then get out as soon as possible. Like not like like nowadays, for example, we already have like a lot of like tools that can help. For example, with Unity, for example, if you're using the MetaQuest headsets, there's something we call like the MetaLink, right? And you can just like connect like the headset, directly into Unity, and right when you actually like in the editor, for example, you can play the Unity scene, and then you can just like see yourself in the headset itself. And this speeds up like your time of development as compared to having to build out APKs
Yeah.
every time. And also like similar workflow to happens also like also happens in Unreal Engine. For the web is the easiest way to say you want to prototype, right? Because you are already live on the website already. You have a link, just update your link, and you can test. And then when we actually think about like post production, right? the most important thing has to be like, who are your customers and how do you want to distribute that stuff you spent, let's say the past 6 months, 3 months, you love it, how you build, like how do you distribute it to them? How do you test the bugs? And how do you like implement like the customer feedback as quickly as possible? So if I start with like, with the part like how do you distribute, right? So you need to figure out like, okay, as Tosin mentioned last time, we have web based like where you can say, okay, I have like an XI experience, I want to push it to the web. Or have an experience, I want to push it on standalone. I have an experience, I want to push it on a PC based device, right? So it's time to push out to your customer. So based on the kind of platform you've pushed, for example, if you're going for like let's say mass market, how do you quickly distribute that experience to them? So if for example you're going let's say the standalone using the Meta Quest, then the easiest approach would just be, okay, I want to go via the Oculus Quest store. That way you have access to like 10 million plus users on the Oculus Quest store, and they can download your app. For example, you can also push to like stuff like SideQuest, App Lab, and all those stuff. If you're going like let's say PC based, the easiest platform they can push to can be like let's say the Steam VR, right? You can push, like you can push into the Steam store. You have access to like the millions of Steam users can actually like have access to your app. If you're doing web based, right, you have to go the traditional route, right? There's no like actually like a store for you to push. So you have to like do the like Instagram noise, Twitter noise, talk to your friends, post on LinkedIn, let them access your app and all. Then every app you want to shape is really, really important that you need to have analytics built in, because the moment your app is already in the hands of your user, you literally cannot see what your user is doing, right? Because you are not in front of them. But then you need to be able to figure out like, what is my user doing? Are they stuck there? And how can I? So, for example, let's say you built like let's say a fantastic game, for example, and yeah, for example, they're facing a challenge or there's a bug, maybe they're not able to log in, something is stuck, right? And you don't have any way of seeing what's happening in the user app. That means you've shipped the product, you feel like you've shipped the perfect product, the best product, but then the user cannot use it, right? And then you get like support mails and all. But then if you have like a bit of like maybe like analytics, live, like live session tracking and all those stuff, you can see like the flow, like it's more like an heat map of like step to step, and that way you can see like where they are stuck, and then you can implement like fixes for them. You need to be super communicative with your user. If you have like one user, you need to send them emails, be friendly to them, set up like demo calls, see where they are stuck, and then try to put your feedback. And there's a general like kind of like funny stuff I tell people, and I also tell myself is like, when you build something and you're expecting to be paid for that stuff, the person that's going to pay you is your user, right? Not yourself. So no matter how much you love something, you built a perfect app, you love your app, for example, you're not going to pay yourself. Like it's not like you're going to buy your app to make your money, right? You're just like the one that's going to buy it, and it's just saying that what your user wants is what you have to build. Like if you don't build what, say for example, you build an app for me, for example, and I'm the user, right? If you don't build what I want, I'm not gonna pay for it. And it's like, how do you figure out like what a user wants? And as long as you can build what they want, they're gonna pay for it. So it's very important. And as app creators, as founders, for example, we have like really good ideas in our head. We feel like we are seeing the future, but at the end of the day, it's like, if your customers don't like what you've built, they will not pay for it. So listen to your customer feedback, get what they want, and then iterate extremely fast on it. And I think that's just what I've just talked about, like post production.
Cool. Thank you so much, Amit. Yeah, basically that, because there's so much that goes into having to create a VR, AR, MR project, anything of sorts, and if your users don't like it, it becomes a very, very big problem, because you then have to go back to the drawing board to see what exactly the issue is, and that can be very, very annoying. But you can actually avoid this if you carry out user tests very early enough. So there are a couple of ways to go about that. Reach out to friends and try to get honest feedback. It can be difficult to get honest feedback from friends, if we're being honest. To be honest, it can be very difficult to get honest feedback from friends, because everyone wants to support you on what you're doing. So sometimes it's always good to go to unknown territories, and then just get strangers to try out what you're working on, and they can give you feedback as well. So try to get as much honest feedback as possible. And sometimes feedback can be harsh, like very harsh. Just take it and see how you can make the best out of it. Always try to get positives out of everything, every feedback that you get. And you can try out when it comes to getting doing user tests as well and like getting feedback. It's very important to try out an extreme sampling method where you're not just looking at your users from, say, the people that would just use your app. You can look at a point where you look at the people at the lower end of the scale for your users. So, say for example, the age limit of your users, say between people between 16 and 65 are going to use your application, right? So it's always good to ensure people within that age range of 16 to 20, you get someone from there to test, and people at that extreme end as well, you actually get them to test, because most of the times, at least from my experience so far, you get completely different feedback from like the extreme sides, and that gives you an idea of what you might actually need to implement within your application itself. And just like I made, the analytics very, very important. Depending on the AR or VR experience you're creating, how you get analytics can be very different. So, say for example, you're a social AR creator. Say you create effects on Snapchat, you create effects on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, but now that's going. You do get access to analytics on your dashboard and stuff, and you can use that to understand the people that are using your filters, how they're using it as well, and that can give you an idea onto things that you would build. We are just speaking about the XR workflow from a generic point of view at the moment, because there's so many workflows that have been adopted within the industry itself, and it really depends on the type of product you're building, right? So everything might not be as it is in all the different categories we have within XR, but it's mostly similar to it. So you start with pre-production, where you're doing all your planning, you're figuring out what exactly is right for you, what is not, are you using VR or not. Then you move into production, where you actually get to start doing the thing, reiterating and reiterating until you actually have something solid that you want to push out. And then in post-production, you're ensuring um, the thing, you're using feedback to improve on the product as well, and you get things going. So there's still so much more. I would really be open to questions to answer them as well. If you have any questions, or if you have any suggestions as well, but if you have questions about, oh, how do I work on a project with a client, or how do I get my projects from start to finish. So there's an interesting one actually. I think I'll just drop this. I'll ask the question and I'll answer it, and I'll allow me to go as well. And that would be, how do I get projects done? So from say a personal point of view, right? So say you are just one guy in your room, right? And you want to create a project, but it seems very, very difficult to just sit down, start something yourself and finish it maybe. One thing I'll advise you is check out hackathons, or something of that nature, where you're required to build a particular thing in a very short period of time. That really, really helps to kind of kickstart things for you. Even if you are not sure what to do yourself personally, if you go for hackathons, you meet people, and that exchange of information, collaboration leads to something. And when you get to create that, it shows you that if you have a goal in mind, right? Most especially with hackathons, you have like a theme or something you have to create around. If you have that in mind, it helps you to, kind of like get there easily. So our advice, if you're struggling to like get projects done, or work on projects of your own, participate in hackathons. It really helps to just get you going. Right. So Ahmed, what would you suggest for people who are unable to like create projects of their own?
I think it's a really interesting question, right? And I think one thing I would definitely say is it's actually around like work at your pace and be consistent, right? So, I think one thing I've learned, right, the hard way, or probably like over the past like 6 years and 5 years, is you really want to figure out like what is that minimum energy thing I can do that can give me like maximum results, right? So, for example, like let's take an example. Let's take like a case study. For example, say I'm a content writer, and I want to post content to, like, let's say all my social media channels, right? I want to post like, like everything, right? Um, an easy way to just do it, just be, okay, what about if I record a single video? From that video, for example, I can generate like shots from it, I can generate like, articles from it, and then just have that video that I can post across multiple platforms. So I just record for like, say, 30 minutes, and I can just extract the data you need in the next 30 minutes. And in 1 hour, I can have content to post across all social media channels. As compared to, say, I'm now creating content separately for each channels. Now, what you find is, like, obviously you'll be able to create content separately for each channels, maybe for the next 3 months. But then, are you able to do that consistently for the next 1 year? You probably, like, let's say, get burnt out. So, at the end of the day, it has to be like, you don't need to rush. You don't need to, like, run. Just work at your own pace. If it's like, I can spend, okay, 2 minutes today or 1 hour today doing something, just take that 1 hour, do it. But then the most important thing to ask yourself is, don't pace yourself too hard. If you find it difficult, just, what is that thing that you can do, but you can do it consistently. Like, it's not going to take too much energy from you, and then just keep building that moment. And before you know it, if you do that thing for, like, let's say, the next, you know, 5 days, 10 days, it become like an habit. And once you got like an habit, for example, you don't enjoy doing it, and you can even go, you can beast, like through it. That's what I'll say about that. For Ahmed, like, how do I integrate analytics into my application? And for Oluwatosin, how can you please give me an example of Excel you use in daily life? Interesting. I think in terms, like, of like analytics, right? We have quite a lot of like analytics software. Obviously, we have like Google Analytics, there's Mixpanel, there's Amplify, there's Oddja. They're like, quite a lot of, like, you just like Google search it and you probably see like a ton of them. So all these like softwares, for example, they have like ways you can integrate, right? With like, with your apps. If you're being like web app, for example, you're gonna have like probably like a JavaScript SDK. If you're being like, let's say, in Unity, for example, they probably have like a C sharp SDK that you can integrate like a package. If you're doing like, let's say, like on Media Engine, they probably have like a C blueprint, some of the blueprint kind of like you can use to integrate. And once you bring that package into your app, for example, or it could be like a script you're gonna write, you then bundle that analytics into your app code, like into like your stuff. You probably set what you want to track, and while you're like your users, for example, are using the app in runtime, in playtime, and all, you can be seeing the data, right, that are doing right on like a dashboard that you can access, and that can let you, like, know like, what to do. And tossing over to you.
Cool stuff. So this is a very interesting question. Can you please give me an example of XR you use in your daily life? That's a very very interesting one, because first things first. With XR, I use XR daily, or rather, in this case, I use my VRS set daily because I use it to test what I build at work, right? But aside that, I do use it not every day, but say every other day to play games from time to time, and in some cases, actually play games with friends as well. So it's mostly that. I can talk for other people as well that I know that use it to meditate every day. I do have a couple of friends that use VR to meditate every day. And yeah, I do have a couple of them like that. But for me personally, on a daily, I just use it to test stuff I work on. Nothing beyond that. And then every other day, from time to time, I play games on it. Just, see what's out there, and just try things out. And that's it for me. I don't use it every day to do something outside of work. I think it's because we do VR dev every day. We get to use it every day.
Nice. And I think there's one more question in the chat.
Yeah, seen it.
Aha.
How,
Yeah.
this is a very interesting question. How can one overcome the hardware barrier to entry for XR? It can be rather costly. So how far can one go without it, and what steps can someone take to get it?
Tosin, I think this one, let me take this one, right? I think this
Go
is really
on.
interesting, right? And I think, I'm saying, like, it's like 5 years ago when I jumped into the XR space, then there was like this kind of like AR SDK we use. It was called Vufuria. It's probably like, like still super popular now. And then actually I couldn't actually afford like a VI set then. And what I did is, like, again, you always want to target, especially like if you're like starting out, you want to target like, what is the easiest way for me to get into like XR? And what does this mean? Like, you have AR, you have VR, you have MR. at the moment, for example, AR, for example, is sort of like the easiest way to get into it. With your smartphone, any smartphone you're using, for example, I feel like as long as it has the camera, you can do like, you can do face tracking, you can do image tracking on it, you can do flow tracking, you can do wall tracking. I mean, obviously, I think flow and wall tracking may require like a bit of like, I think, some special sensors, so that may be a bit limited. But with the phone you have, you can do face tracking and most AI experience that you can do. So I probably say you want to get in first with like those devices that are like that are relatively cheap and you have like access to already. So that's what I would say. Like you want to start first with like what you have. In this case, it's probably going to be AR. Then as you build your career there, probably like you could be probably get jobs. Probably like get better opportunities. For example, probably work with different companies. Then that could probably expand like your scope more. Like like owning like like I said. In my own case, for example, I started like my career with AR because that was the cheapest way to get started with my phone. And then after doing like one or two experiences there, right, to see capable member, then and I got like a person who wanted to like work with us, and then that's how I got to work with my first VR set, right? So it was like the experience with AR got me to work with VR, right? And I got to work with VR. So that could probably be so like you want to get in first with the cheapest way you can get in, which is AR with your phone. I want to do something there, you want to actually start pushing things out and building your experience there, then you can build a career up from there.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid way to go actually. I remember back in uni, there was this exhibition that we had where I had like phones in the Google Cardboard headset. I think that's like the very first VR experience that we were having then, which was pretty chill to be fair. But we getting access to these devices. One thing I would advise you to do is leverage community. So when you're starting out, look out for XR communities that you can be a part of. It really opens up doors for you because there would be someone there that has a VR device, right, that you might be able to use at some point in time. So say you're learning Unity, for example, you've been able to work on a VR project using, say, the simulator within the Unity engine itself for XR, you get to a point where if you work with people in the community, you get to use their devices to test as well. That's a really interesting act where with community, you can easily get things like that done and it makes life easier for you. So yeah, definitely. That's one way you can go about it as well. And start with what you have as well, just like Amit said. Start with AR. The most accessible form of augmented reality right now is our mobile devices, and almost everybody has one, if not everyone. So start with that, and just build from there. Join the community, and that might really be of help. Uh, all right, then. Thank you so much, Priyanshi. I hope I got that correctly.
Priyanshi, I think we have one more question there. So before we round up, we should answer this one. I think this one is very, very. Any of the speaker can answer this question. Data collection can be a very touchy subject. Where do we draw the line? I.e., using AR, MR, and XR for medical purposes. Having access to your customer health history is weird. I think that's a very interesting one.
Amit, you want to go first, or should I
Yeah,
go?
sure. Why not? I think the very first thing is I'll say like is the moment you want to go like post production, like you're going out to the public. All I mean, something I say all the time is, and I can't mention the importance of this enough. Is like make sure you have a privacy policy and a terms and condition. The moment user come, for example, and they log into your app, they're giving you as basic information like their first name, their last name, their email. You need to have a privacy policy and a terms and condition. And privacy policy is just going to be like, okay, this is your data, and this is how I'm going to use your data. This is my terms and condition of how you must conduct yourself in my application, right? If the user didn't go ahead and accept those terms, right, then you can say like you've already like bounded yourself like safe in that aspect. Obviously, this have to make sure you're doing things properly. The second thing has to be like, you also obviously have to like, define like the line you want to draw, right? Which is if I want to collect like data like, internally and use that data, for example, to improve your application, then you are not sharing those data, for example, to third parties, right? And that is fine. Now, in most cases, where data becomes a touchy aspect is you are collecting people data and then you are selling it to third party, right? And that's like where data becomes a touchy I mean, like a super like touchy subject. And also
Yes.
nowadays there are like ways that you can even like anonymize data, for example, right? The goal of getting like your user data in your app, right, is to see how you can improve your application, right? So we can make it better. So you only want to collect what you need per time. And even if you want to collect data, for example, you should not identify your data. So there's a common rule of thumb is like, you want to identify a user probably like an ID, not by their name or their email, right? And that is like if your dashboard, for example, get leaked or get access out from the app, like you're just using like the ID alone, right? To get your user information, not the email and name. So that way you're safe. So even if you want to track users, for example, on your app, for example, you don't want to identify users via email or their first name and their last name because that could be like expose their data. You want to use like like more like a unique ID. Then I'll say
Yeah.
for that user ID, for example, did something, did something, and that way that information is useful for you because you then get to know that okay, this is what this person is doing, for example. But then even you as the owner of the app, you don't know who that user is, except now to maybe do like a second lookup to check okay, this ID belongs to you. And that way you can easily share data across your company and things are fine. Yeah. So that's what I would say regarding that.
Yeah, absolutely. There are quite a lot of regulations in place, especially when it comes to healthcare for user data. I know here in the UK, there's like GDPR, where if you get users' data, you can't hold on to it for so long. You have to hold on to it for a period of time, and after that, you have to let things go as well. So there's so many regulations regarding that, and that's where your research comes in. Research happens during pre-production as well. So you have to look into all these things before you get into that project. And even when you're building projects in Unity, if you're accessing, this one doesn't necessarily concern healthcare, but it's just data in
Yeah.
general. If you're accessing some user data on a particular device, right, you have to enable all these requests for these permissions within your application as well to ensure that the user knows that the user actually confirms that they are sharing this with you, so there is no issue later in the future as well. So yeah.
Okay. So I think we have a few more other questions I'd like to ask you guys. Uh, so first off, I'd like to go on before I let you guys go. Uh, Tell us what do you do in this sector and your startup? What made your career? Okay. Sorry. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. Those are all your questions. I think that's all your question for you guys.
Oh,
Hello. Yeah, I
hello,
think
we
that's all the
can hear
question we
you.
have for you guys. Yes, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing the insights. And what I could really take out from this is that the users comes first because the users determine what you're really making and how far you get it to them because they really determine what you're really putting out there. Yes, and yes, I think XR is very, very, very interesting industry that is yet to grow here in Africa, but I could see a daily use cases for it. And yes, it's something I look interested in actually experiencing because yeah, honestly, I've not experienced it before. The Oculus, the all those things you have to put your into your head and all of that. It's something that I think is very amazing. I would like to check. Thank you guys for your time, and I would like to let you guys go. And yeah, we appreciate the insights you guys have given us tonight. It's really amazing, and the questions you've answered. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so now I think we have two more speakers to bring on stage. They are going to be addressing us on a very interesting topics, which has to do with journalism, media journalism, and the likes. So first off, I have two speakers, but I think I only have one here with me. And yes, he is going to be giving us insight on practicing media and journalism in the creative industry. Yes, practicing media and journalism in the creative industry. I think I have Kadi here with me and Yusuf Olajide and Kadi Kpodo-Tay. Wow, that's an interesting name. is a connoisseur of African comics and animation. He runs Squid Magazine, where he talks about geek stuff and digital art from Africa. He's also the co-founder of the Accra Animation Film Festival and is a digital performance marketer outside with superhero antics. Wow. And when he's not pretending to be awesome, he will find either sleeping or running through mountains, a hot spicy kelewele, and other lovely shenanigans. Wow, wow, that's amazing. And yeah, the next person, Yusuf Olajide, on his bio. Yeah, I think. Hold on. Yes, is also. Oh, I can't find the speaker bio. Yeah. Okay, I think I'll just bring them on stage right now. Yeah, welcome, Mr. Yusuf, Mr. Kadi. Yeah, nice to have you guys here. Uh, Sorry I couldn't find Mr. Yusuf's bio, but I'd really love to read that out. Yeah, welcome.
Thank you, Ulaji.
Yeah, hello guys. Good evening, good day. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you too, and would like you to deep dive into the industry of the media journalism and creative industry, practicing media and journalism in the creative industry. And yet, before I ask any questions, do you guys have maybe you want to give us a quick talk first before I ask any question on the media and journalism industry? Hello?
Okay, sure. I'm gonna go
Yes.
first, or shall I go first?
So, tell us what you do in the sector and your startup. First question. I think any of you can answer
Okay.
that.
Okay. Hi guys. Nice to meet all of you. Nice to be here. My name is Kadi Yao Te. That's actually the
Oh, I think I
pronunciation.
murdered the name. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. I murder people's names too, so it's totally cool. I'm based in Accra, Ghana. What do I do? I run something called Squid Magazine, like Mogulaji mentioned. It's essentially, if you guys are familiar, I'm sure you all are with IGN or like Taku or sites like that. That's essentially what we are trying to build, where we are covering everything that's happening, comics, video games, and animation, but from Africa. So yes, it's a geek site, but then it's all focused on what's happening on the continent. To be fair, we haven't done as much on the gaming sector. We focus primarily on animation and comics because those are my first loves. And I suck at games, so I'm not as excited to write about games. I'm trying to get people to help me with that. So that's who I am. That's what I do.
Okay. Mr. Yusuf.
All right, guys. Good evening. It's 7:51 Nigeria time here. I based in Lagos, Nigeria, and yeah. So I myself, I work in within the esports industry, and I believe by now almost everyone in Nigeria should be familiar, and also outside country should be familiar about the industry. And what's the esports industry? The esports industry is where, oh yeah, can you game? Come. How competitive can you come? How creative can you be with gaming? You get so come and show us your
Yes.
skills. And we are the like officials. We are the one who are putting these things out there, putting the players out there, giving them the stage, giving them the chance to get recognized by the country and by the whole world if the chance comes up. So yeah, nice to be
Oh,
here and nice to
uh,
speak.
that's some amazing stuff and nice to have you guys here. Wow, that's beautiful. Uh, okay. So first off, I would like to ask, what made you start a career in media and journalism? First, I would like to ask. I think Mr. Kadi should go first.
Okay. I what made me start? I don't think I've ever thought about
A
this
career in
question,
media.
but Sorry, say that again.
Yes, I said, what made you start a career in media and journalism?
Yeah. So I was just saying that I don't think I've ever really thought about that question before, but I think as a kid, I always knew that I wanted to do something in media. I just assumed I was going to be on either TV or radio,
Hmm.
and I like to write, and like I like English class, and so I was always writing. And so once I had access to the internet and a computer, I just did a natural thing, started a blog, and I'll put on like poems and all these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Um, so I had a blog I was just writing random things on, and then I started. So I have a friend who's an artist, and I think he's like a really, really amazing artist. As was when we were back in secondary school. So right after that, I was just thinking about it that okay, I know this friend. He's called Kobe, who's a great artist, but I'm wondering if there are other people like him who are doing like really, really cool stuff. Because all the artists at the time they would draw, but then they'll do like portraiture, but then Kobe would go and draw anime, he'd go and draw Naruto, draw Ichigo, and it was just like, oh my god, this is so cool! Like I want more of this. And then I think what really pushed me was he would um, do like Ghanaian versions of these characters, and we tried to create our own characters, tried to create stories and things like that. And it was exciting. And then he introduced me to a comic called Canary 7 in Karim Chronicles from Nigeria. It's essentially like imagine Naruto but football and based in Nigeria, and they're speaking pidgin and speaking I think it was Yoruba also. It was really cool, and I was like, okay, what is this? And I started learning more and more. I discovered this world of people from across both Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, creating all these cool things in comics, and I started looking at animation, and then all those things were just really, really exciting. And I just wanted to find out more, and I figured if I'm finding these things and I find interest in it, then definitely there are other people out there who are also interested in things like that. So I started essentially blogging about it for myself, and people were reaching out because they actually liked what we were doing because we were sort of giving them a platform, and based off of that, we just my partner and I just started making like a big thing for us. So then that's how I got started in that space.
Oh wow, that's really amazing. Mr. Yusuf, I'd like to go next.
Okay, so starting off with me here, personally myself, I am someone who is always interested in, you know, growth and development. I like to be part of, something that, as it goes on, I'm growing with it as well. So
Yes.
starting off, I was a gamer, yeah, and getting to join squads then used to be like hard for me because these squads they are like already made squads, and then I'll be like, I can't really belong here because these people, it will be hard for them to like carry me along with whatever activities they are going to. So I do find it interesting to join a new squad, like upcoming ones who are like, yes, they're growing, and then I would like to be part of that. So one thing about it is that I love storytelling. And starting off with my organization, yeah, which is in Excel Gaming, I joined in Excel Gaming back then, 2019, as a graphic designer. So what we do is we keep record, we keep data of the esports ecosystem in Nigeria. So that's what
Okay.
we mean to. So as the time goes on, as we grow, as we expand, as we get to onboard new members, we get to stretch our branches further, and then we started, attending LAN events. And LAN events are local area network. We have the LAN, we have the multiplayer, the online multiplayer. The online multiplayer are just like just host the tournament online, yeah. And then we have
Yeah.
the LAN, which is the offline, where the players come and gather in person, and then they do whatever activities they want to do. So there was this gamer event that happened this year, and then I was privileged to be there, and you know I just got to like play with, like, I got to play around with the camera recorder, and I just loved it. I love to cover events, I love to cover people's story, I love to listen, and
That's amazing.
how so from there, personally, I just moved into it, and content creation just like became my thing. And also, I'm the content lead for Excel Game as of now. So yeah, it's that's 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 it for now.
Oh, okay. That's very good to see that. It's growing into the field like grew on you guys. It's not something you really set out to do, but something that just happened along the line, and it's really amazing because you don't know what awaits you ahead. And yes, one more question. I said, why is it so important that the journalism and the media industry are important in the African creative industry? I mean, I'd like you to go first, Mr. Kadi, like the importance of media and journalism in the African creative industry.
Yeah, I think they're absolutely important because let me use Africa,
African
Michael is
communicate.
gonna kill me. Africa Communicate as an example, right?
Yes.
Um, I'm sitting in my corner in Accra, minding my business, and nobody's talking about Michael and what he's doing, right? And so if Michael were to reach out to me and say, "Hey, there's this Xbox fellowship, I want you to be part of it," I'm just gonna look at him like, "What does Xbox like? Why is Xbox coming to Accra or Nigeria? Like they have all these triple A games doing these cool things. But who are you? Are you trying to take me for a fool. Like I wouldn't believe him, right? But if I saw that actually this website that seems, even if I don't know the website, but this website that seems to talk about a lot of XYZ, or that maybe I think you guys have Punch, right? Punch Nigeria has had an interview with this guy or has written about this guy. That's more believable to me. Then that makes me feel like actually he might be onto something, he's legit. And so then I'm more likely to listen to what Michael has to say because
Yes.
other people have done some journalism around it. And honestly, I don't lie, when we started this thing, it was just a small thing. The way artists reacted to what we were doing, I just knew that, okay, this was something that they really needed because nobody was talking about them. At the time, you see Comic Republic would put out Guardian Prime or some other comic, and it was just on Facebook, it was just within the communities that we're talking about it. But then once they get like a feature from BBC or OK Africa, one of these people, it became like a really big deal. Like they were proud of themselves, they were proud that they had done something really amazing, right? So then, if we can't tell those stories ourselves, then are we gonna keep waiting for the CNNs
To
and
come to
co to
it.
come and write about us? If that's the case, that means that indie developers, indie creators, no one will know about them because usually what I've seen happen is we'll talk about somebody for a while and then they'll
Yes.
keep grinding, putting out work. And because we've also spoken about them, then it gives a certain level of authenticity to what they do. And then it just makes it
Yes.
easier for other bigger publications to, jump on them. So I think
I
it's
agree.
really important to be about just giving these people a platform and then just talking about them. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Yusuf, do you have anything to add to that? That's
Please repeat the question. Repeat the question.
the importance of media and journalism to the creative industry at large. You know.
All right. So, my home space is the esports industry here. And
Okay.
yeah, media and journalism is a very, very core role in the esports industry. Because
Okay.
back then, when we were still kids, all we do is game, right? We were taught, just game. Because then our parents can easily scold us that, why are you even getting from this? Why are you benefiting from this, right?
Yes.
But as of now, yeah, esports is the fastest evolving industry globally. And as
Sure.
you are saying, the growth is, it's a lot, honestly. And, we even have the international organization trying to explore our own ecosystem here in Nigeria.
Yes.
So these things we do, it has to be documented first. It has to be put
Yes.
out. But if we are not putting these things out there, how will they know what we are doing? So
Exactly.
media analysis plays a major role in the esports industry. And not just in the esports industry. Anywhere you can find yourself, everything we do has to be documented one way or the other. So I
Yes.
think that
You're right. You're right. That's amazing insight. So our next question. Well, most people think media and journalism is just all about writing blogs, articles, and all that. Uh, what other exciting parts can you say? I mean, what other exciting part of your career can you say your most astonishing accomplishments from? I mean, it's not just all about writing blogs and articles. What part of your career can you say it's exciting?
Um, so I'd say that yes, I'm mostly right. That's my big thing. I'm a little shy, but I think for me it was putting events together. So one of the things we do is, I think what we're trying to get into to become like the geek event organizers, right? And so we have this thing called frame by frame animation. It's just basically like animation screening. So one evening you get a big stage, get a projector, get a wall, monitor our first, and then just have like a bunch of snacks and invite people to come. And what we do is we show them animation from mostly Africa and then from other parts of the world. And then we did the what we did this year. I thought it was really really exciting because it was like a mini convention, right? So there was animation playing, then there was some art exhibition corner somewhere. There was a gaming room somewhere. We had like a comic stand. We had some guys who sell comics also come there. I think for me that was like one of the most exciting things that I've done in a way of promoting what's happening in the country.
Oh, okay, okay, wow. That's really nice. Mr. Yusuf, you can go next.
All right. So esport. Sorry. Esport can just get out of my mouth. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
So media and journalism it goes way beyond just writing articles and that. It even get to help you grow personally as an individual. Because
Okay.
me myself, I've gotten to I've been in the industry for over 5 years now. I think, and this sorry, media and journalism will give me the it gave me personally, it gave me the privilege to get to meet these big names that are mentioned in the industry. People
Yeah,
like
some exposure. Yes.
Oscar Mike, Spectacular from Game the Lagos State Commissioner, all sorts of people, the players as well. You get to
Yeah.
connect, you get to meet these people directly that, okay, tell us your story, right? And also,
Oh
aside
yeah.
from
Yes.
that, you get to explore yourself, right? You get to interact with the general audience. You get to communicate and speak with people, and as it goes on, we also get to learn, one thing or two that will just be like a plus one to your own, life
So
experience.
knowledge. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, thank you very much for that, guys. I have just a few more questions, and I'll let you guys go. The next one I have here is what are the skills someone working in this field of media and journalism needs to have, like a paramount skills? Mr. Kadi, you can go.
Great. Let me get the question again.
A personal skill, a skills that someone working in this field needs to have, like a paramount skills. Let's say number one skills that someone in this field needs to possess
I think I
to
think
really excel in
research.
it.
Yeah, I think the ability to research. I think research would be a big one because
Research.
why I say
Okay.
that is researching skills. I'll say that because I've worked with people before where
That would
uh,
be knowing how to do research. Yeah.
yes, just finding information because what I've seen happen a lot of times is you try to get people on board to help us, and then we end up having to be the ones who sort of like feed them the information. But the idea is that you can uh, find you can find the information yourself. Like go on the internet, find the information, but then it seems not everyone has the knack for it. I'm not sure why it's weird. Because like imagine researching something and then you're spending like 2 hours just going through Google, reading an article here, trying to understand from that article to another article, etc. etc. I think that's at least my state. That's a key skill so that you have like the right information that you're putting out there, whether it's in a video form or an article form. Yeah.
Okay. So you say research. Mr. Yusuf, what would you say it should be?
Okay. So yeah, as a media personnel, yeah, you have to be someone who is, you know, ready to explore, make research, right? Because
Okay.
whatever it is you are documenting, you just have to go and explore. Just go and find it. needed and accurate information needing for that particular document you get. So in terms of data report as well, all these things takes a lot of critical research, and it has to be up to date because at the end of the day, when you are gathering this data report or the document, when people reach out to you, you should be able to provide them with accurate data. You get.
Information. Yes.
That's what we do at the next round, right? We keep data reports, we create magazines. So people they explore, they come to our site, they visit our website, our page, they look for things they need, and then they try and use it to enhance whatever it is they want to do. So that's the main impact of keeping record, and just keeping it right. And yeah, it must be vibrant as well when you're being when you find yourself in space like the interview sessions, when you have to communicate with people, you should know how to approach people. And yeah, I think that's basically it. Yeah, that's
So
basically
basically,
it.
being proactive and yeah, knowing how to do your research. Well,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's some good insight. And yes, for the last one, before I let you guys go, oh no, 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 before I let you guys answer questions from our listeners. So the next one will be the last one will be what are the main tools to use in this field? The main tools that someone getting into this field needs to master and get to use. Yeah, Mr. Kadi, you can go first.
Um, we consider the internet as tool, but for me, that's really the thing. Anything works. Like if you want to write, you can literally write on your phone. By the end of the day, you need internet to publish. You need internet to find the information you want to put out there. And
Yes.
if you want to do videos, again, you have your phone, but then what happens after you've recorded whatever? You need still need the internet. So for me, I'll say one of the big tool is as long as you can use the internet, I think that's the starting point. And then if you have a phone, you can write wherever you want. There's Google Docs, there's your
What?
notepad, there's cards. So
Okay,
it's like
notepad.
really, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, Mr. Yusuf, what would you add to that? To the main tools for this, for this line of job.
The what?
The main tools you get to use in this line of job.
Tools.
Yes. Key
Oh,
tool.
okay. Is that like the physical tools needed? Or
Yes, like maybe softwares that you get to make the work easier. That you have to
okay.
master to really
All
make
right.
things
All
go
right.
smoothly for you.
All right. So for that person who just tend to have knowledge at random on different software which I lay my hands on. We have the Photoshop,
Okay.
we have the InDesign, we have the Adobe Illustrator, CapCut, and you know, or anything that has to do with editing. Yeah. So not like 100%
Okay.
guru on this app. No, just I'm that kind of person that when the time of need occur, I will get to explore. As long as I need something, yeah, I will get to explore what I've not even used before, and you know, try to get whatever it is that I need. I get it done from that thing. So it can be
Yes.
rough at first. It might not be perfect. So at least I got what I
Yes.
want, and I can revisit the software later to try it out and try to you know perfect my skills to an extent. So yeah, and also
Okay.
your laptop, your phone as well. It's a technology world now, and these two things are your four factors, yeah, your laptop and your phone. So if you have those two things as well, you shouldn't really have problem. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, well, that's all the questions. Before I go to uh, the listeners here to pick out some questions. So, I think the first question we have here is from Priyanshi. She said, "Is it necessary to have any qualification to start working in this industry? Like, what qualification does it take to become an expert in this industry or to get into this field?" Yeah,
I
anybody
think
can.
yeah. Let me say. I'll say passion, passion and a willingness to put the information
Passion.
out there, inform
Mm.
people. I think that's it.
Just passion.
Yeah. I personally that's what I think.
Okay, okay. Well, that's some good qualification. At least you're passionate about something, makes you really go out for it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think.
Okay, yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, it takes a lot of consistency as well because sometimes it can be draining. Trust me, when you just sitting there and trying to achieve something. So yeah, your passion really goes a long, it really goes a long way. No one really started anything perfect. Yeah? So it has to be as you're doing it, you're gathering the experience and then you're growing. You become perfect if that's what you're going to see yourself. But it's a continuous it's a continuous process. That's just it. You just keep growing, you keep growing. No one is a Highlander, so that's just it. You
Yes.
keep learning and you keep gathering more experiences.
So I'll say consistency and passion. Well, that adds up. So the next question will be, uh, we are in the stage. This is from Wolf. Said we are in the age of streaming, video creation, podcast, and fast content for consumers. How do you get around that? Seeing as you both focus in the writing slash written aspect of the media, like how do you get past the fact that this age now it's all about the age of streaming, video creation, podcast, and fast content for consumer. How do you get away around that? And since your main focus is writing and aspect of the media, do you also involve in
Um,
that deeply?
no, okay, so I had a podcast. I've not used it in a minute, but I had a
Okay.
podcast. I haven't used it in a minute. And like I said, I'm a little camera shy sometimes. So, like, we have a TikTok, and all we do really is to, repost, like, post other people's content, like, a lot of animation to say, hey, this is what's happening. From an animation standpoint, it's not been a problem because we just put like trailers and snippets and just put people on to like some of the cool things that Africans are doing. But when it comes to like a session like this where you're speaking and saying, okay, today in the news, there's blah 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 blah. That personally I've not done yet. But next year, that's something I'm hoping I can get to. I want to explore as many different touch points as possible. I want to do less writing, to be honest.
Okay, more of a video creation and yes, well, and that's amazing on the podcast. Mr. Yusuf, how are you?
Yeah, so
Do you have an answer to that?
I would just like to add more to that. So
Okay.
from the Nexal side, yeah, because we don't only write, okay, we
Yes.
also we also have our podcast as well, and in terms of video creation too, we still start video content out there as well. And trust me, everything is needed at the end of the day. The
Yes.
article writing, the magazine, the podcast, the video content creator, everything is needed at the end of the day. Because when it comes to people trying to learn more about this particular person or this particular event, people make different research. People go for data. People go for articles. People go for you know analysis. So it depends on the one which you have at that moment that they will use to now. Okay, yes, this is what these people have, and this is what we can learn about this particular scene. This is on that. So yeah, everything is needed, and yeah,
Well, that's true because everything makes a core part of the whole industry. And
yeah.
yeah, for the last 1 year, from Priyanshi still, any advice you have for someone who wants to venture into this industry from a different industry? Like, I mean, what advice would you have for that kind of person? I mean, you said it's all about consistency and passion. I mean, what other advice can you give someone just coming from a different industry and trying to really delve into this?
I think let me touch on something that Yusuf mentioned when he was talking about what was the question? I think it was I forgot what the question was, but he was talking about having connections, like meeting people and people. I
Yes.
think that my advice would be start either way, like just start, right? Just really start if it's on your WhatsApp or your Instagram or TikTok, whatever channel you're most comfortable with, start something anyway. But I think that try and connect with other people, try and find who's doing what in this new industry, find what they are doing, and then just talk to them. I think you can start off with interviews. One of the easy ways for us where we're just interviewing people and we're getting a lot of content from there. But I think that just try and check on them first. Try and make connections that you can talk to people in the industry that you want to get into. I think that you find some really valuable insight for them. And then as you go along, you're going to experiment quite a bit. And as you go along, you sort of like figure out what exactly it is or the best way that you want to present whatever content it is you want to share.
Okay, Mr. Yusuf, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, from my own experience, yeah, I just feel if you're coming in entirely like from a different industry, yeah, into like let's say
Yes,
the e-sport industry, for example, you just have to adapt. Honestly, yeah, you have the skill, yeah, you have the
yeah.
skill, but you just have to get to adapt to the new industry which you find yourself. You get to connect with your colleagues or your or other people who you find in the industry. So yeah, that's what I just feel. You just have to grow. You just
Okay.
have to them and try to learn things in their own way, and you'll be fine on the long run.
So I would say it's basically just networking, collaborating, meeting people, trying to learn in the field. Wow, this has been a very amazing and insightful session with you two. And yes, really, really amazing. And yes, you guys, thank you for the tips, for the, you know, for the insights on the whole industry. And yes, thank you for doing this with us. We'd like you to have you some other time and really
All
learn
right.
more from you guys on this industry. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Yadi. Thank you, Mr. Yusuf. Really, really
Thank
nice having you two here tonight.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So, well, those are the three sessions we have for today with our amazing speakers. Wow, that is very handful. So we have our feedback form in the comment section. You can check that, fill the form, send back your reviews on each speakers for the sessions we've had, and yes, we'd like to hear feedback from you. Wow, it's been really amazing doing this with everyone tonight. Learning from the what XR really means, from Mr. Ahmed down to Mr. Oluwatosin and his partner, getting us deep dive into what production really entails in XR. And yes, down to media and journalism by Kadi and Yusuf. And yes, it's been really, really amazing doing this with everyone. And yes, looking forward to day 4. Thank you for doing day 3 with us here at brought to you by African Communicate. Yes, and we'll look to bring towards to you tomorrow's session, which is going to be something very, very amazing to look forward to. Thank you everyone for giving me your time tonight. It's really amazing doing this. I think this will bring us to the end of the session now.